This episode of Let's Talk, the Israel War Briefing podcast, is produced in association with Shabbat for Israel, a national expression of solidarity with the people of Israel, called by Chief Rabbi Efraim Mirvis and taking place on the 8th and 9th of March. Inspiring guest speakers, many traveling from Israel, will be joining communities around the country who will be staging special events and initiatives to mark the event. Contact your local synagogue to find out what's happening in your area. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Michael Levy from Israel, whose younger brother Or is currently being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. Michael, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this very difficult time.
Thank
Could
you.
you begin perhaps by just talking about who Or is and how the events of October the 7th played out?
Yes, always the youngest out of three brothers. I'm the oldest, so he's my youngest brother. And he's one of the people that you can call annoying geniuses.
Okay.
Uh, he knows everything, and he taught himself everything. And for people, is just a name or another picture, but for me, is my little brother.
And he's 32, right?
He's 33.
33. And what's his job in
He's a software engineer, a very
okay,
successful one.
okay.
And yeah, he was married to Einav, and they have a 2-year-old son named Almog. And they were one of those couples that you can call now the new Israeli dream. They both were very successful in their jobs, high-tech companies, or was part of an exit of one of the companies, and, with a bright future ahead of them.
And where do they live?
They lived in Givatayim, very close to Tel Aviv.
Okay.
And they they loved music festivals and they loved traveling. They did it a lot with Almog, and before he was born, they used to travel a lot and go to music festivals.
Okay, so all 33 years old, software engineer, married, a 2-year-old son, Almog, living near Tel Aviv, um, very successful, sort of part of the new Israeli story of the tech miracle.
Yes.
Um, did he presumably he served in the army?
Yes, I usually, don't like to talk about it because it's not very, it's not related,
Mhm.
and he didn't do anything, any combat fighting or anything. It was just part of the army, the Israeli army.
Just a regular national service like anybody else
Exactly.
would do. Right,
As you have to when you get to 18.
right. And was he politically active? I know the period before October the 7th was a really turbulent one for Israel, wasn't it? Was he involved in that, or was he not a
Um,
political person?
Actually, no. I mean,
Right.
none of us are. We weren't very political then, and we are not very political now.
Mhm.
Uh, he just wanted to live his life in peace with his amazing family and do his job and have fun when he can.
And what's he like as a father? I mean, I know that it sounds like he's very young at heart. I mean, he's not old, but he's young at heart. He loves traveling still, and he took his family to Thailand as well, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly who he is. He loves traveling. He actually Almog is their whole world, and they did everything with him. Almog is a very technical kid. He likes the switches and fans and lights and everything related to
Um,
electricity.
his
Uh,
father's son. His father's son.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. All was like that as well. He's like when he was a kid. And so we just created a wall for him with switches and fans and lights that Almog really loves, and he plays with it all the time.
And what did a
Uh,
weekend look like for them?
I guess
Typical weekend.
like a normal weekend for all of us. We usually had dinner at my parents' house or lunch on Saturday. It depends.
Hmm.
And some traveling, friends, and
Hmm.
trying to rest from the crazy week.
Right. Did he go to the beach? Was he a beach person?
From time to time, yeah, definitely. We actually grew up near the beach, so
Mhm.
we like it a lot. And
Mhm.
yeah, they still they still went to the beach whenever they could. And yeah, mainly on weekends, we mainly just try to rest and have fun with friends and family.
So really quite a fairly, I mean, special but ordinary
Like,
family,
nothing
living
really
outside Tel
special.
Aviv, but special in the way that everybody is special. And he had some talents, has some talents, and and was a special person as well. So bring us
Yeah.
up to October the 7th then.
So that was actually not an ordinary weekend. And they, in Avenor, decided to take a different break from the crazy weeks. And they left Almog with his grandparents and headed to the Nova Festival. They actually wanted another night with him, so they left for the party only at 5:20 a.m. So they reach the festival around 6:20 a.m. It's about an hour drive
So you've got Almog is being looked after by your
by
parents,
Einav's parents. Yeah,
Einav's parents, and Einav and Or leave very early in the morning, 5-ish, to get to the Nova
exactly.
Festival because they wanted to put him to bed, I suppose, the night before, did they? So they stayed and left really early to get to the Nova Festival.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like I said, it's about an hour drive, and so unfortunately they arrived straight to the missile attack. And when they arrived there, they immediately texted us and told us that they are heading back or trying to head back. But few minutes after, they texted us again and told us that they are hiding in a bomb shelter not very far from the festival area. And
And so at that time, what did you? I mean, I suppose the whole country was in a state of confusion about what was happening. What did you know then? Can you remember what
yeah,
was going through your mind and how what was it like?
actually, I was at first I didn't even know that they are there. I woke up at I remember the time. I woke up at 6:34 a.m. and to the sound of sirens all over my house. At first, I thought I'm dreaming, and then I woke my wife. I woke up my wife and asked her if she hear those sirens. And then we turned on the TV and we saw in Israel when you have so many sirens, you can see it as alerts on TV. So we turned on the TV and saw numerous alerts, and the whole screen was full of them. I immediately called my mother because I saw that they had sirens there as well. So I want to know how are they doing. She
And
told
that's
me
when
that,
you
sorry,
sorry, go on.
no, she told me that they are okay, but that Or and Einav went to a festival down south. At first, I wasn't too worried.
Right.
Turned on the news, I saw what's going on. It seemed like an ordinary, if you can call a missile attack ordinary, but in Israel, unfortunately, you can't. And it was another missile attack. We thought it will be over soon. And when my mother told me that Owen and Inav are hiding in a bomb shelter, I was relatively calm. I
Right.
wasn't too worried because I thought, okay, as long as they are there, nothing will happen to them.
So they weren't texting you, they were texting your mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And where were
Um,
you at this time? Were you with your mother or were you at home?
no, no, I was at my house with my family,
Right.
my wife and kids, and it took. I turned on as everyone else in Israel. I turned on the TV and we saw the news. At
Mhm.
first, you got mixed reports from what's going on there. And I saw some videos that I couldn't believe.
Yeah. So you saw the videos that we all now know so well, unfortunately, of the Hamas terrorists coming over the border and rampaging through the kibbutzim. And
Exactly.
um, and so Or and Einav are in the bomb shelter. So you hear that through your mother. And
Yeah.
then what happened next? Well, what time was this?
It was about 6:30. Yeah, about
Okay, so still
6:40,
early.
6:45, something like this.
Okay.
So at that point, I was relatively calm, like I said.
Mm.
Uh, just turned on the news and wanted to understand what's going on. And then I think it took an hour or so when I started hearing more and more reports about what's going on. And then I tried to call all myself. It was about an hour later, about 7:40, 7:45. And I couldn't reach him. I couldn't reach enough as well. And I spoke to my mother again. She told me that he called her from inside the bomb shelter. He was terrified. Apparently, they heard the rumors or something because he was terrified. And when my mother asked him, "Oh, what's going on? Is everything okay?" His response was uh, repeatedly, "Mom, you don't want to know what's going on here." And that was the last thing we heard from them. And uh, again, at that point, I wasn't too worried because I thought it will be over soon, and I couldn't believe there are terrorists inside Israel. Definitely not what happened. And
So then,
then my mother,
sorry,
sorry,
go ahead.
and then my mother called me around 8:30, crying. He was worried. He was terrified, and I was actually a bit angry because I told her, "Mom, everything is okay. Don't think about bad things. Uh, they will call us soon. Uh, they're just hiding, and everything will be fine." So I didn't understand how big it was at that point.
I
It took
suppose,
me
go ahead. Sorry.
it took me about 2 hours to understand. So only around 10 a.m. I really understood that something bad happened.
Right. I suppose there must have been a period of time between when you lost contact with them and when you found out what had happened to them that must have been very, I mean, I can't imagine how distressing and worrying and confusing it must have been. Can you talk a little bit about what that period was like?
Yeah, that's actually it took us 8 days to understand what happened to all. For me, I think it was the hardest 8 days of my life. And I actually don't really remember the first 2 days, besides the fact that when I actually understood that something bad happened, I started obsessively calling hospitals to understand if they are there. And I actually called so many times that the operators knew my voice and immediately told me, "Yeah, your brother and his wife are still not here. Try again 30 minutes or an hour. Obviously, I tried again after 10 minutes, and there were a lot of rumors about what's going on. There were lists of survivors from the Nova Festival. I started talking to friends of them, to the producers of the festival, and basically anyone who might know something. And only on Sunday, I managed to see a video of them inside the bomb shelter that one of the survivors just uploaded as a story
Wow.
on Facebook.
So did
And
you know that that was coming? Did they contact you and tell you that they had this video?
no, I just got it from one of my friends who saw it. We knew that they were somewhere in one of the bomb shelters. There are bomb shelters all over the place there.
So you just so the first sign of them came randomly, like coincidentally, by one of your friends spotting it on Facebook. And what did that video show?
So it didn't show much. I mean, the most of the video was actually all of the video was taken prior to the terrorist arrival. You can see the missile attack. You can see people inside the bomb shelter. Some of them are still smiling. They obviously didn't understand what's going on. And I also had a picture that all took. You couldn't see them because they were at the back of the bomb shelter, and he took the picture towards the exit. So we only saw other people that were inside. And this is how we knew that he was with certain people and not with others. And we started talking, and somehow I got the contact of some families that their loved ones were at the same bomb shelter.
Mm.
And we were all in the same situation. We didn't know much. And from that video that I just spoke about, I managed to understand few things, like where is the bomb shelter, because every bomb shelter has a drawing.
Mm.
And there was a drawing of a bird on it, and there was also a sentence that said that this bomb shelter was a donation of a certain organization. So I googled
Right, so
it,
you're
and
able to
somehow
identify the specific bomb shelter that they were in.
exactly.
And did it change? I mean, seeing that video, did it change how you felt and what you did? Did it make a big
Uh,
difference to you?
Not really, but it made me. I Whenever something bad happens, I usually react by doing something, and it helped me doing something. I had a mission to understand what's going on and to find where they are, and it gave me a clue. And there were also cars in that same video, so I watched it frame by frame and managed to find the car license plate of one of them. And
Mm.
that's how we got to one of the survivors. And he told us that yeah, we was actually in the hospital, so I spoke to his father. But when he woke up, his father showed him the picture, and he said that he remembered René Nav, but only prior to the terrorist attack. At that point, we knew that about 10 minutes after the call that he had with my mother, a group of terrorists arrived to this bomb shelter.
And may I ask, Michael, what your job is in your ordinary life?
I actually manage a department in a very big high-tech company. Uh,
Okay, okay, okay. Um,
nothing like the intelligence job I had to do at that point.
right, right. So it didn't. I just wondered whether your character for dealing with detail in that way was reflected in your ordinary life.
I think that for me it was project, uh, the most important project of my life. But I try to address it as a project or as a mission, and to get any detail that I can find and talk to anyone that might know something, and
And
just
and what
gather
was
the pieces.
and what was happening with your other family members at this time during this period? How did everyone respond and relate to each other, and what was the general atmosphere in your family?
Uh, that's a very good question. Uh, it's changed from, it depends. It depends on the hour of the day. There were hours then where we thought the worst happened, and times where we were super optimistic, and a lot of crying, and a lot of discussions between ourselves. And my mother was devastated, and my father didn't know how to react. I haven't seen him like this. I still don't recognize him. Even now, he's completely different. And we try to stay optimistic as much as we can, but obviously it wasn't easy.
How is he different?
He barely speaks, and he was one of those that, the last thing that you can say about them is that he's a fragile man. And now everybody that saw him or met him just tells me how fragile he is. And
Mm,
I just try to keep him safe. He's not a young man.
mm.
He
So
has a
if
heart condition. Yeah, sorry.
so if we wind forward then to when you first got the news about what had happened, can you tell me about that?
Um, yeah, I actually 8 days after October 7th, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. And at that point, every call that wasn't from a number that I recognized was terrifying. I was afraid when I answered the phone. Uh, when I answered, an army officer presented herself and told me that he tried to call my parents and couldn't reach them, and that she wanted to tell us what happened. And at first she didn't want to tell me over the phone. She wanted to meet us, and I insisted. I didn't let her hang up the phone without telling me. And she told me that O was kidnapped. And that was actually a few days after that we heard that they found Einam's body, uh, 3 days after the funeral. So when she told me, I asked her to wait because I wanted to be the one who tells my parents. And I asked her to find a paramedic and a doctor and come to my parents' house with them because I was worried about their reaction. Honestly, I'm almost ashamed to admit that I was relieved that he was only kidnapped and that he wasn't killed in this horrible attack. Uh, who would have thought that I will feel relieved that my brother is held by monsters? But that was the feeling.
And how did your if I can ask, how did your parents react when they received the news?
Uh, to my surprise, they actually reacted the same. Mm, we didn't talk about it before. Mm, Only when I told them, I immediately saw that they felt the same. They were relieved that uh, this was the news and not the wars. And, but then, after a day or two, we started thinking about what it means, and then it kind
Mm.
of sank.
So, if you can just, I suppose, in the months since then, you must have got some more information and pieced together what happened. Can you tell me, to the best of your knowledge, the narrative of what happened? We left them in the bomb shelter.
Yeah.
What do you know of what happened after that?
So unfortunately, I managed to find videos of the terrorists coming to the bomb shelter and throwing grenades into it. And I also saw some of the people that were kidnapped from inside, that were kidnapped together with all. And it was about 10 minutes after the last call that we had with all. And unfortunately, I couldn't see all in any of those videos. And I just saw the terrorists throwing grenades and spraying it with bullets. And I saw them kidnapping 3 out of the 4 people that were inside. And all was actually, we knew what happened to 28 out of 29 of the people that were inside. All was the only one that I couldn't tell for sure what happened, and only when the army told us we knew that he was kidnapped. Um, but that's pretty much it. I know now that he was thrown in the back of the pickup truck together with the others after the video that I saw. But that's it.
And is your understanding that Einav lost her life in the grenade blast when they were throwing them in? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No one could really tell us exactly what happened to her, but it's probably because of the grenades or the shooting inside the bomb shelter. Yeah.
So before we talk about Or and what's happening now and how you're campaigning for him, could you just spend a little while talking about Einav
Yeah.
and
Uh,
who she was and how her family is, and a bit about that experience, that side of the story as well.
uh, yeah, it's still hard for me to talk about it because
Mm.
we didn't really stop to grieve about it enough. Mm, she was our soulmate actually. Um, they they were very good friends for years. Took them 7 or 8 years to understand that they were actually meant for each other. We saw it first. Actually, my mother saw it first and told her that she actually asked him, "Oh, why don't you date enough?" And he
Where do
told
they
her
meet?
that. Sorry,
Where do they meet?
they were part of the same group of friends after high school. And when my mother asked him about it, he told her that he couldn't because she's like his sister. And then it took a few more months, and then he just came to us and told us that they are together. And yeah, like uh, very much like she was very happy, always surrounded by friends, loved traveling, loved music, loved dancing. She was a dancer for years, and yeah, that's still can't really talk about it in past.
Yeah, and she, of course, was the mother to Almog, who is 2 now.
Yes.
Um, did she combine motherhood with work? Was she one of those Israeli mothers who brings the kid to work and has him there?
Exactly. I mean, they were both high-tech company in high-tech people. She was a graphic designer, a very successful one, and she worked many hours. But still, they somehow managed to combine very demanding jobs with amazing parenting. And he was their whole life. And they still managed to have fun from time to time together with him. So alone.
And has your family and Einav's family become closer almost through this experience? I mean, are you in close touch, or are you
Yeah,
still separately?
we actually did a lot of things together in order to find out what happened to them. And usually those situations just get you closer to a person. That's what happened. And now we have to raise Almog together, the families. So we are tied to each other.
Okay, so we'll talk about Almog in a bit, but first I just wanted to ask you about the period since. So from when you discovered what happened to Or until now, what do you know about him, and what have you been doing, and what can we do?
So what I know is pretty much what I knew after the first, after the A day. We know that he's still alive and that he wasn't injured, but that's that's pretty much it. Uh, as for what happened since, I always say that there is the old Michael of before October 7th and the new Michael of after October 7th. And sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I don't really recognize who I'm looking at. And I basically left everything behind. And that's what I do 24/7. I went to I don't know how many delegations. And I think it will be my 8th delegation in 2.5 months. And I met politicians, I met the Pope, I met presidents, a prime minister, anyone who is willing to hear the story. I actually hated talking about myself, about my family, about personal things, definitely not on media. I hate to speak in public, and I do it whenever I can now, just to get him back. I actually promised my parents after 2 days. Actually, somehow was got the courage to promise something that I don't know how I can how and when can I do it. I promised them that I'll bring her back, and now I have to do everything in my power to bring him back.
And so you've been trying to create awareness and pressure, I suppose, political pressure, that you
Yes,
hope will eventually lead to some kind of deal or rescue, something of that
exactly,
sort.
exactly. My mission is to raise the awareness and to create more and more pressure on everyone, uh, on the Israeli government, on foreign governments, on Qatar, on Egypt, and basically anyone who might be able to help in any way. For me, I want to stress that you asked earlier if Or was a political activist. And I answered that the answer was no. But even if he was, it doesn't really matter because
Mm.
I want people to understand that this is not about politics. It's not about Israel versus Palestinians. It's not about what's what should be done in Gaza after the war. It's about human beings with real lives and hopes and dreams and families. And like I said at the beginning, uh, they see another number or another name, but I see my little brother, and all the hostages are someone's family.
Sure. Yeah. I was asking about his politics only to build up an idea of who he was. That was my only
No,
reason.
no, I know, but it's important that people will understand that
Mm.
this is not related to politics in any way. It's very
Yeah.
easy to connect it to politics,
Well,
but
actually, on that note, the next thing I was going to ask you about was the reaction of the world to the hostages, to Israel, to the war in Gaza. You must have experienced this firsthand. One of the first things that people were so shocked by in Britain was people tearing down hostage posters. Have you encountered that kind of reaction yourself?
I actually witnessed it with my own eyes when I was in New York, 2 meters from me. I saw a woman just tearing posters of kids from the wall. Honestly, I felt sorry for her. I wasn't even angry. Uh, Whenever I manage to speak to people that protest against Israel or against the hostages, uh, sometimes I try to get into a conversation with them to understand their mindset and how can people be so cruel or so ignorant.
Did you speak
And
to this woman when you saw her taking the posters down?
I try, but she ran away.
Okay.
But I managed to meet few of those. And whenever you ask them something real, they don't really know what to answer. They
For
don't
example?
really understand what's happening in Israel or
Right.
what's happening in Gaza or what are they fighting for. And they just know that someone told them that they should hate someone. And that's it.
Mm.
And I mean, if whenever you see someone tearing posters of a 2-year-old kid, it cannot be logical. And you cannot speak to understand that kind of behavior. A 2-year-old child, even if he's from the wrong side, didn't do anything wrong to anyone. So
And and you haven't been called up to serve in Gaza or on
no,
in the north yourself?
no,
Um,
gently
have you?
for me, no. I have another mission.
Right, right, right. Okay. And but in terms of it feels to me from the outside, well, to some extent from the outside. I mean, in the early part of the conflict, people would often ask us, Jewish people in Britain and elsewhere, do you have any family in Israel? And people began to answer, yeah, we have 9 million. So we're sort of on the inside and on the outside at the same time. But it seemed to me, certainly on the outside of Israel, that in your country, there's an extraordinary energy of people pulling together and supporting each other. Have you found that, and has that helped?
So I actually, that's one of the positive things that happened as a result of this horrible situation. You can, you, I met so many good people who left everything behind and just want to help. I meet on a daily basis people who just ask me, "What do you need? How can we help?" People that I don't know.
Can you think
And
of any specific examples of people that have stand out in your mind?
I'm sitting here in the middle of the family hostage forum, uh, which is built on volunteers. It's a building with 6 floors, full with people who left everything behind and worked day and night just to help us. You have here food, and you have here psychologists, and you have media teams and social teams. It's an amazing organization that was built on volunteers. And if I need something, I just pick up the phone, and they usually fight who will help me. That's how amazing it is.
And how are all the volunteers living? Because they're not working. How are they? How is everybody? It feels like everyone's dropped everything.
That's the mystery of it. People actually prefer not to work and to live on their savings just to help, just because they feel that they have to do something. And I meet so many people who are actually frustrated because they feel that they can't do enough. And that's a feeling that I cannot describe. And I can't even start to describe how it helps, how much it helps us.
And what can we do? People in Britain, listeners around the world, what can we do?
I keep saying that whenever I talk to someone, anyone actually, um, you know better than I do what you can do. You can pick up the phone, you can send an email, you can go and meet someone who might be able to help, if it's on the media or if it's on the government, on the British government, the American government, someone, everyone knows someone who might be able to help. And like I said earlier, we want to put pressure on Qatar and Egypt and anyone who can put pressure on Hamas to stop committing crimes against humanity and release the hostages. And so I only ask from you and from everyone who is listening now is help us. Help us. Just you know better than I do what you can do, even if it's small, even if it's just sharing our story or sharing other hostages' story. Everyone can contribute in his way, in his own way.
Now, I just wanted to finish just by asking about Almog. I mentioned him earlier, um, the 2-year-old son of Einav and Or. How's he doing?
Um, you know, the good thing about it is that he's only 2, and he probably won't remember most of it. But he understands. He misses his parents. He calls them every day. And when we actually when someone actually mentioned the word dad or mom next to him, he burst into tears. So
Does he know what does he know of where they've gone?
obviously we couldn't tell him everything, but after talking to professionals, uh, we had to tell him that his mother went away and that she's not going to come back, and that his father was taken, and that we are looking for him and trying to get him back. It
And
was
who's
horrible.
yeah? How did he respond to that?
Um, he at first he didn't, like, he acted as a 2-year-old boy, and then he started asking questions and call them a lot more. He's not himself. You can see that he's not sleeping well, he's not eating well, he's different, just
And,
different.
and who's looking after him?
Now he's moving between the grandparents,
Mm.
but we all try to help, support him, show him love, um, hug him in any way.
Okay, well, Michael, thank you so much for joining us and being so brave uh, and candid and open about your experiences. Of course, we're all praying for you and for Or and for your family and your country and people, and we're with you, and we anything that we can do to help, we'll do.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
Yachana Netzach, and I
Am
hope that
Israel Chai.
I'm Israel Chai. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope the next time we'll have some good news to talk about.